All right, this screen tells you about the sine curve, and it gives you the ordered pairs, and then on the next slide I'll show you the sketch of it. But down here at the bottom it asks you for a coterminal for 180, so just remember to keep adding and subtracting 360 and you'll get an answer for that. The next page shows you what the definition of a midline is. So you're going to have to read the midline. It's the line that splits it in half, like here the x-axis splits it in half. And here I'm talking about the word amplitude. Amplitude is how far from the middle it goes up or down. So in this graph, since the middle is the x-axis, it goes up 2 or down 2. So you can see the word, the amplitude is a equals 2. So midline is an equation, like here would be y equals 0. Amplitude is a number, like here amplitude equals 2. If you go back to this slide, the amplitude is only 1 because from the center it only goes up 1 or down 1. Here you're supposed to actually sketch the midline. So it looks like y equals -3 might be the midline. Let's see. Yes, that looks right. And then it says to plot a crest and a trough. So I see at the parenthesis pi over 2, right arrow, comma, and then at 1, there's a point. And if you want to label it, you can call it a crest. If I look at negative pi over 2, halfway to pi, so negative pi over 2, right arrow, comma, -7, I have just plotted a trough. Whoopsie, put that in the right spot. And so that's how you would do this as well. Here there are two questions. The midline for the green, I want you to come up with an equation, y equals something. And then the amplitude for the blue is a physical number. I want you to come up with that number. Here you're sketching a line again, and then you're going to find the point. So that ends the period. So a line that splits it in half looks like it's at 4. Yep, that splits it in half. The amplitude is 3 up or 3 down, so you could say the amplitude is 3. But here it wants to know, if I started at that blue dot, where do I go until the period is complete? So it looks like the purple from the start goes down, goes back to the midline, goes up, and then finally back to the midline. So it looks like at 3, pi is the shorthand for pi, over 2, right arrow, comma 4, let's see, yes. So you can see that red is the end, here let me get rid of this E, the end of this full period. So wherever you start, the end of a period is where it would start to repeat itself. So that's what I want you to try to do there. Here you're going to find the domain, the range, the equation of the midline. The amplitude is a number, and the period is how far you go before it repeats. So if you start at 0, 2, it looks like you go to 2 pi, comma 2. So the period does look like it is 2 pi. Because that's how far you go before it repeats itself. You've got to come up with all the other answers ahead of that, right? I want the domain, I want the range, and all that good stuff. And then, clean it up from there. What else do I want? I want the midline, I want the amplitude, okay? So make sure you're doing all of that. All right, here I'm just showing you what cosine is and then asking you what the domain and range of cosine would be. And then you're starting to fill in some blanks. So let's try to do these problems and see if you have any success.